I virtually wholesale houses in multiple states, consistently hitting 5 and even 6-figure months, all without ever leaving the comfort of my office and without ever stepping foot inside the property. And if I can do this, a guy who was repeatedly expelled from high school, who has no college education, who was in prison for 6 years, and now makes more in a month than most Americans make in an entire year, trust me, you can do it as well. And in this video, I'm going to give you a step-by-step playbook to virtual wholesale from start to finish. Let's get right into it. The very first thing you're going to need, just like in any business, is going to be leads. Yeah, I know that should be pretty obvious, but I can't tell you how many investors I talk to who simply don't have enough leads coming in. You have to have a lot of leads coming in, and you have to make offers on those leads in order to get contracts and get paid. It's that simple. That's the formula for this business. So we're going to start going over the different lead sources you can use in a virtual wholesaling business. We'll first start with the free leads, and then we'll later transition into paid leads. So the very first one coming up is going to be FSBOs, which are for sale by owners. Now this is typically homeowners who put their house on Zillow or either realtor.com or Trulia, and they're typically doing this because they don't want to deal with a realtor, and usually that's because they don't want to pay the realtor. So unfortunately, these leads typically want to get more value than what the property's worth, so they're a lot harder to convert into deals because they're asking too much for their property. That being said, early on when I was getting started in this business, I did use that strategy as I was taught by a guru, and it was very challenging, but I did get some deals that way. But you're gonna have to sift through a lot of them in order to get them. But they are free leads. Number 2 on the list is gonna be agent outreach. Now this lead source is all about relationships, and it's gonna require a ton of follow-up. But once you've closed a deal with an investor-friendly agent, that agent is going to bring you multiple deals down the pipeline that hit his desk, and they're all going to be free. So this can be a very profitable revenue stream for you and your business. You're going to have to nurture these relationships with these agents and consistently follow up with them so that you're at the forefront of their mind and they bring you the deals soon as it hits their desk. Number 3 on the list is going to be cold calling. Now, in order to do this, you're going to need to pull a list. I personally use a software called PropStream that has pretty reliable data. I'll leave a link for that in the description below. But you're going to pull that list, and then you're going to skip trace that list. And basically what that is extracting the phone numbers in order for you to reach out and give them a call. I use a company called DataSkip.io. I'll also leave a link for that in the description below. Now, you could cold call all these leads yourself, but I personally recommend that you outsource this to a VA. You can get a VA in the Philippines, in Brazil, Egypt. There's numerous countries and places you can get these VAs, and it's gonna save you a lot of money because our currency is valued much higher than theirs. So you're gonna leverage the American dollar in order to get this task done a lot cheaper. Cold calling these people yourself is gonna burn you out really fast, and it's gonna get old really quick. So I always recommend that you outsource that to a VA. And the other great thing is this is going to save you a ton of time because now you're only going to be talking to those people who are actually interested in selling their house. Now, up until this point, we've only been talking about outbound leads because we've been reaching out to them, initiating the first contact. Now we're going to get into inbound leads, which are going to be much easier to close because they're reaching out to you to sell their house. But like anything, it's going to come with a price. Because they're reaching out to you and you're having to pay to play, it's going to cost more money. Now, because these leads are inbound, you're going to have somebody ready to answer the phone at all times. I can't stress this part enough. If you don't have someone answer the phone, that lead is just going to simply call somebody else. This is the most important part of running inbound leads. So landing at number 4 on the list is going to be direct mail, which is made up of mail, door hangers, and postcards. Now you can get really targeted on these. However, you're gonna have to hit these lists numerous times in order to get a conversion, and you're gonna have to send out thousands. Now, Ballpoint Marketing is a company that's changing the game in this space. Now, what's cool about them is they're actually handwriting these letters and using a real pen. Now, this is going to drastically change your conversion ratio because it looks so authentic, like a real handwritten letter, because it is, but it's written by a robot. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below so you can give them a try and see how they work for you. Now coming in at number 5 is going to be PPL, which stands for pay per lead. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You're going to pay this company for a qualified lead that you're going to try to convert. Now these companies market at scale via online marketing, and then they sell these leads to you for a premium. Now, Motivated Leads, it's an awesome company that I've used in the past, and I'm going to leave a link for them in the description below, and you can give them a shot and see if they work for you. Coming in at number 6 and last on the list is going to be PPC, which stands for pay per click advertising. Now, just like these PPL companies do, where they go out and market and advertise to find leads and deals and then sell them to you, you can also do that on your own. Now, a few things to be aware of here. There is a steep learning curve involved in this strategy, but once you get it dialed in, you can really 4, 5, 6, sometimes even 10x your money. But with this strategy, you're going to have to be in it for the long haul. It typically takes around 90 days in order to get your campaign dialed in, because the algorithm is learning exactly the type of lead and deal that you're looking for. So if you're going to do this, make sure you're in it for the long haul, and be very wary here because you can waste thousands. However, once you do get it dialed in, this is probably the most profitable lead source that you can get. Now listen up, this is very, very important when you're doing the PPC strategy. You have to have someone there to answer the phone when a seller calls, and if they fill out the lead form, you have to respond back within 5 minutes. These people are highly motivated and they're reaching out to someone to buy their house. And if you don't pick up the phone or you don't call them back within 5 minutes of filling out the lead form, they're going to call somebody else or go on and fill another lead form for somebody else out. So this is the most important part of PPC that I see tons of investors mess up on, because they have no follow-up process, or they don't have someone in place to answer these phone calls and to respond to these lead form submissions. So if you're spending money here, you got to make sure that you have this in place, or else you're just throwing money in the trash. All right, now that we got some leads coming in, the very next thing we're going to need is a script in order to close these deals and get them to the finish line. And the reason you need a script instead of just winging it is for a few reasons. Number 1 is going to be consistency. The more reps you get with your script, the more polished your delivery is going to be, because you're going to start to memorize it. But most importantly is you're going to start to recognize patterns in people's objections, which is going to lead into number 2, objections. Using your script, you're going to start to get a lot of the same responses and objections. When you get these objections over and over, you can start to develop scripts to overcome these rebuttals. And number 3 is going to be duplication. As you start to build your business, you can start bringing on staff that you're training on these scripts in order to duplicate yourself. And now you can take yourself from a one-man show to a money printing machine. Okay, so now we've got our marketing and our sales dialed in. How do we do this virtually? Well, step 1, you're going to want to make sure you get professional photos. I can't tell you how many times I see newer investors drop the ball on this step right here. This is one of the most important steps in the entire process. You have to get professional photos in order to show your property in its best light. This is going to attract more people and more buyers to come look at your property, which in turn is going to give you a much higher chance of getting the property sold and getting the highest price possible. Now, for this step, I always use HomeJab, which is a nationwide company, and they charge $189. That's for 30 photos, and they operate all over the nation, and they're very reliable. They're usually out there within 48 hours. So I'm going to leave a link for them in the description below. You can give them a shot. Now that we've got our professional photos back, it's time for us to find a buyer. Now, we would like to get this property on the open market via the MLS if possible. Deals on market tend to sell for 10, 20%, or even higher than on average. Now, you want to get permission from the seller to be able to list the property on the open market. Now, depending on the state, you may have to get additional agreements and novate the property, or you may want to double close on the property if there's a high enough spread. Now, understand, this will not be an option in some states due to regulations that have come down on wholesaling. So in these instances, you may want to use one of my favorite strategies, which is called wholesaling. I'll leave a link here for you to check a video on that as well. Now, in order to wholesale, you're going to have to be capitalized because you're actually buying the property and taking it down and then relisting the property. So that may not be for a newer investor unless you have access to a lot of capital. Now, if you're actively searching for these buyers off market, then you're going to want to go to Zillow and you're going to look for flips that have recently sold or that are currently on the market. You're going to call up these agents and you're going to say, hey, I see that you represented an investor at 123 Main Street. I have a contract on a property that they may be interested in buying. They're usually going to be very receptive as they want to bring value to their investor. They also want to make some commission, whether that's on the front and the back end, or if it's just on the sale. So you're going to forward them an email that has the professional photos and it's going to have a description of the property along with the purchase price. Now, from there, you can also go to PropStream, Investor Lift, Batch Leads, all of these other places where you can try to pull buyers lists. But the strategy that I just told you is the cheapest and also is going to work the best. Okay, so now we found our buyer. The very next step is we're going to either assign our contract or we're going to do a double close if it's a high fee. So for me, that's anything over $35,000. It's just not worth the risk of your buyer pulling out because they see that you're getting a high assignment fee. Now this next part is the most important part when it comes to securing your buyer. You want to make sure that they put down a $5,000 non-refundable earnest money deposit with the title company. Now this will virtually stop all of your buyers from ever pulling out on you again. And even if they do pull out, you're going to get $5,000 in return. And then you could find another buyer if you have time. But the likelihood of them pulling out after they've deposited $5,000 is very low. Once in a blue moon, they may come back to you after they've done their due diligence and they've found some things with the property and maybe let you know that, hey, there was another issue we were not aware of. Could you at least lower the fees so that they don't lose their $5,000? And if they're a buyer that you've used repeatedly, you may want to do that in order to stay on good terms because they're going to bring you a lot more money in the future. Now to wrap this up, you're going to want to get that contract over to your investor-friendly title company, have them open escrow so that you can get paid. Now this is the process that I use to virtually wholesale from start to finish. Now if you want to learn how I use my wholesaling strategy in order to make big chunks of profit that a lot of other investors tend to pass on, then watch this video right here.